So picture this. A World Cup is about to start, but one of its most consistent, most familiar teams is just gone. That's exactly what happened in 2026. Bangladesh, a team that had literally never missed a T20 World Cup, suddenly wasn't there. And this wasn't about losing on the field. No. This was a wild story of politics, security, and a standoff that nobody saw coming.
So the big question is, how does that even happen? How does a team that's been in every single tournament since the beginning suddenly get replaced? It has nothing to do with failing to qualify on the pitch. The real reason is way more complex and, honestly, a lot more controversial. It all boiled down to a fundamental disagreement that just spiraled completely out of control.
All right, so to really get our heads around this, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll talk about the sheer shock of the announcement. Then, we'll dig into the venue dispute that was at the very heart of this thing. After that, we'll walk through the timeline of the withdrawal itself. And finally, we'll get into the, let's say, passionate fan reaction that just exploded online.
Okay, first up, understanding the shock. To really feel why this was such a massive deal, you have to appreciate just how much of a fixture Bangladesh has been on cricket's biggest T20 stage.
I mean, just look at this record. From the very first T20 World Cup back in 2007 all the way through 2024, Bangladesh was always there. 9 straight tournaments. They were a constant. They even hosted the thing back in 2014. They weren't just showing up. They were a core part of the tournament's identity for almost 2 decades. And then, this. After qualifying for the 2026 tournament, they were out. Gone. For the first time in the entire history of the men's T20 World Cup, Bangladesh would be absent. And the big question is, how on earth did we get here?
This brings us right to the core of the problem, the India venue dispute. See, this whole thing wasn't about bad form or team selection. It was a conflict born from what seemed like a simple request to change the location of their matches. So you had a classic standoff. On one side, you had the Bangladesh Cricket Board saying that their government had serious security concerns and formally asked to move their matches from India to the co-host Sri Lanka. But on the other side, the International Cricket Council, the ICC, basically said no. They did their own security checks, found no credible threat, and their position was firm. Changing the schedule just wasn't an option. It would undermine the whole tournament's integrity. And it was a stance backed by India's powerful cricket board, the BCCI. Now, for the Bangladesh Cricket Board, the BCB, their hands were pretty much tied. You see, they operate under a government mandate. Every single overseas tour needs official clearance from their government. And for the 2026 World Cup matches in India, that clearance was just not granted. End of story. So this disagreement didn't just simmer. It escalated, and fast, into a complete withdrawal. The final few days of this whole saga were incredibly tense, and things just completely fell apart. If you want to get a feel for the mood inside the camp, just listen to this. This quote is from the team captain, Liton Das, just 3 days before the final decision. He was asked about their World Cup prep, and his answer was an absolute bombshell. He basically revealed that the players themselves had no idea if they were going to play. He said it wasn't safe for him to say more, and confirmed the players hadn't even been consulted on the board's stance. Wow. And here's how it all came to a head in those final 72 hours. After the captain's comments on January 21st, the ICC put its foot down. On the 22nd, they gave Bangladesh a hard 24-hour deadline to confirm they would play as scheduled. Well, that deadline on the 23rd came and went. Silence. And by January 24th, it was all over. The ICC made it official. Bangladesh was out. So with Bangladesh officially withdrawn, the ICC had to pull out its rulebook. Scotland, being the highest-ranked team that hadn't originally made the cut, got the call-up. They were brought in to take Bangladesh's spot, stepping right into the middle of this incredibly dramatic situation. And that, of course, brings us to our final part, the fan reaction. As you can probably guess, a decision this huge didn't exactly happen in a vacuum. Online, the global cricket community just exploded with opinions that were passionate, angry, and deeply divided. So when you look at what people were saying online, a few major themes popped up again and again. You saw a ton of criticism aimed at the ICC, with a lot of fans calling it the Indian Cricket Council, suggesting it was too influenced by India's board, the BCCI. There was this huge debate over whether Bangladesh's security concerns were legit or just an overreaction. And a lot of people were pointing to what they saw as double standards. But the overwhelming feeling, really, was just disappointment that politics had managed to kick a major team out of the World Cup.
So, when all the dust settled, what this whole mess really did was ignite a firestorm of a debate. It forced fans, pundits, everyone to confront some really uncomfortable questions about power and influence in world cricket. You know, what happens when those lines between sport and national politics get completely blurred? Which really just leaves us with this one final thought. In a massive global tournament where you've got national pride, legitimate security issues, and powerful governing bodies all in the mix, who truly gets to set the rules? It's a question this entire controversy leaves hanging right there in the air with absolutely no easy answer.